Dad was a storyteller.
See? It's in our blood.
I used to punch holes through space-time.
Hey! Oh, you're the dude who says he's from another planet.
Hello, Adam. So, how are you doing?
Hey, Howard. Nice to see you. How's it going, man?
Nice to see you face to face. It's always been over the phone. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
You got superpowers, right? Come on, I just want to hear your story.
I mean, this is very much a festival film, and it has been to some festivals, but it must be a bummer at the same time that you've not been able to...
Oh, yeah. No, it sucks. That's the payoff of all the misery of making a movie is, you know, getting to go out and see it with people and see it with, you know, people who are excited to come out and see a movie. And especially because I was able to make this so quickly after Daniel Isn't Real, you know, I spent all of last year touring the world, showing Daniel Isn't Real, and then immediately made this. And it really would have been amazing to just go and hit all of those same places again. You know, I learned so much about the movie that I had made and about how people, you know, interact with what I do by going to festivals and, you know, talking to people and hearing people's questions and, you know, and all of that. So ARCHENEMY is more of a mystery in a way for me. It was also, you know, it's a departure in some ways from what Daniel was. And then also I'm having such less interaction with people. So
yeah, which I think is a real shame, because I think this is one that really could really spark debate. I mean, maybe it was just me, I don't know, but I just felt that you were fed up. It feels like you were fed up to the back teeth with everything, the whole situation. I don't know if the economy, politics, everything. It just felt like you were virtually kind of putting yourself into Max Fist, and he was like, he arrived at this country, he's like, what the hell is going on here? Was that kind of the inspiration behind it all?
Well, it's interesting. I think there's something about not doing something other than a horror movie, right? Doing whatever ARCHENEMY is, crime movie, science fiction, you know, superhero. I feel like you can stuff it with more reality, more contemporary something. Like the horror movie has to have such a kind of like tone, you know, or like such a reason. And this, I was able to sprawl a bit, and I was able to constantly be picking up on, you know, like there's a line in the movie where Amy Seimetz talks about fentanyl. And I had that idea because I went to see a friend of mine had written an entire book about fentanyl and the relationship between how it's produced in China and brought to the US. And it was like this fascinating, you know, global international murk of this highly addictive drug. And so I was able to, you know, oh yeah, so that goes in, you could slot that in. And, you know, so I think you're right. There's something in what this story is, which in some ways is a story about a whole city or a neighborhood or whatever, you know, this area is. And you just put so much of real life into it while still trying to make it, you know, sort of aesthetically its own world.
My city was named Chromium.
So that's where you're from?
They had to invent things to hurt me. Intelligent asteroids, killer robots.
Super villains?
Say super one more time.
I kind of get the feeling that it was kind of an FU to the whole Marvel universe as well, in a way, no?
Well, it's not necessarily a fuck you, but it was about, I feel like there's a lot of different ways that we can, look, I come from my whole life being obsessed with comic books, and what comics were able to do with superheroes goes across so many genres and so many different kinds of aesthetics. And so what I felt like ARCHENEMY was like an opportunity to find different cinematic aesthetics and play with the genre of what these characters are in a way that comics have been doing since the 80s. You know, in the 80s, they were like, well, you all know what a superhero is now, so we can totally play with it. Bill Sienkiewicz can draw people all crazy, and, you know, Grant Morrison can play with fiction and reality. And I felt like it was time that we could do that. So it was, I mean, there's nothing negative, but it is like, you know, you've got 25 Marvel movies and they all have the same aesthetic, which kudos to them for being so consistent. But I wanted something that was a completely different feeling of a movie.
And I wanted to ask you about your casting of Joe as well as Max. It's kind of like the character, it felt like a mashup of kind of Hitch meets Zobo with a shotgun type, like that kind of thing, maybe with a bit of They Live. Was that the kind of thing you were going for, that kind of vibe?
Well, I think once Joe puts on the, you know, the overcoat and the hat and the scruff, he definitely has those They Live vibes. I mean, it was more about taking Joe, who is you know, like one of the most handsome men in the world, and who really looks like Superman. Like when you know, kind of clean him up, he looks like Superman, and then just tearing him apart as much as possible, and seeing what that would look like, and, you know, sort of the relationship between a guy who floats through the cosmos and a guy who lives under the bridge. I think there were a couple moments sometimes where I'd look at a frame and be like, oh yeah, that's kind of like the Terminator. That's like they live.
I don't know if it was something that I just picked up on, but I just felt like even the casting was specifically done to make a point about what's going on in the world today.
I don't know. I think I only try to do things that are that have a certain kind of meaning in it, right? So I don't know. I'm not sure I was working backwards from like a sociological idea into it. I think it was more like as you're putting the pieces together, you're trying to make sure that they're all connecting to the anxieties that are on people's minds. Yeah, I think the thing that was maybe the most interesting, that really felt specific, was, you know, there's a scene in the flashback where there's a statue of Max, and then it gets torn down. And like right when we were working on that sequence, it was like there was all of these amazing protests happening where they were tearing down the statues of Confederate generals here, and that was a moment where I was like, wow, we were really like, you know, depicting a science fictional version of where we are in reality.
You're risking our lives to hang out with some homeless man?
Max didn't have to do any of this to help us.
They will find you and they will kill you.
So what are we supposed to do?
You fight the war.
Hamster's character, he's kind of like this journalist, influencer type guy. It also felt like there was some kind of satire or a critique there of kind of journalism, fake news.
I mean, I think there's an interesting conflict at the beginning where he's at the, you know, he's at this place that's kind of like a version of BuzzFeed, and he's looking around and he's like, you guys are not reporting on, you know, reality. I want to report on reality. And I think that's an interesting, you know, reflection of what you're talking about. What I don't think his relationship with Max is that he thinks he's presenting something that's not real. I think he's interested in presenting like the truth of the man, and he's not sure if you know what Max is saying is true. Is this about a real thing that happened? But he's really invested in, you know, he's like, you can see him in all of his conversations with Max, and he's like, you did this and you did, like, he's sort of looking for the heart of what Max is.
I really love the way that you merge kind of comics into the reality there. How did you come up with that, and who did you work with? Because it just really blended together really well.
I kept thinking of the movie as being a little bit like Pink Floyd The Wall, in that, you know, it's very beautiful, you know, live action descent into madness, and then these animated things that just feel so abstracted, and you feel like you're really looking into his head. And so that's what I wanted his, you know, his memories or fantasies and dreams about chromium to have that sensibility. And I worked with a comic book artist named Sanando C, who lives in Bangalore. And he's a guy that I had been developing a comic book with a couple of years ago. And I just love his art and his expression and his sense of architecture and his sense of strangeness. So we wound up, you know, he came on board to help design this stuff.
This is very different to Daniel Isn't Real, but it does kind of feel like the next logical step, in the sense that Daniel Isn't Real was kind of about this possibly imaginary character, no? And this is about possibly imaginary superpowers. Have you got any idea where you want to go next?
Well, yeah, I have a couple projects that I'm working on. I wrote something else with Brian, who I wrote Daniel Isn't Real with. It's about witches and capitalism, which I'm very excited. I'm hoping to do that. And now I'm also in the position where I'm starting to get scripts sent to me that are way better than things that I've read before, or probably better than anything I've written before. And I think that's sort of the joy of having established, okay, here's what my style is, and here's what I'm interested in. And so now there's a way I can connect with other people and sort of explore what I'm trying to do with genre, but get in all these new ideas and points of view that I haven't had before. So that's exciting.
Will I be working closer with Spectavision again? Because you've obviously built a really good, strong relationship with them with those two films.
They're lovely, and I would, you know, I mean, it was super cool. So far, I'm the only director who's worked with them twice. So yeah, I love them. They're my film family. I don't know if everything I do will be with them. Not everything is always right for them or for me, but I certainly hope that we're both going to grow together.
That's been well, Alan. Thank you so much for your time. Best of luck with the film. I'm sure it'll go down really well. And I hope to see you under better circumstances next time.
God, I hope so too, man. Really lovely talking to you again, man.
Yeah, all right. Take care. All the best.
Where's my brother?
You look insane.